What's up? We got Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3, Episode 2, Freak Show. So this episode starts off with about 6 months earlier when Amaya and Nate were living together, and Amaya's baking Nate his mom's homemade donut recipe from scratch. But Nate's like, oh, we don't need that. I'll just go to the store and buy some. So that's when Amaya sees on the screen and turns on the TV and she sees her granddaughter Mari fighting bad guys as Vixen. So when she sees that, Amaya decides to leave Nate and leaves him by himself without him giving him a call. She's just like, oh, see ya. So then we see Nate and they're talking about and then we see Nate in the present day and they're talking about how since Mick pulled off the anachronism device off of Rip, now they're able to defeat their own anachronism by themselves. So Ray shows them a bunch of anachronisms, and they're like, hey, choose one from 1870. So they choose that one in a circus. So yeah, but Ray, they choose that one in a circus, and they find the anachronism, and it's this big cage of saber-toothed tiger who's was transported from the Ice Age to 1870. So when the Legends broke time. So Ray uses his device, but he sneezes because he's allergic to cats, and makes the cat a gigantic cat. So it breaks out. So Sarah's okay, we gotta handle this anachronism before Agent Sharp and her Time Bureau come back in and try to steal this from us. And he's like, we need someone who can talk with animals. So Sarah goes off on her own mission to get Amaya for help, and she lies to Amaya, saying about how Nate's gonna be happy that he's back, that she's coming back, but he's not. He's just like, Amaya, you basically rule. And then he gets on a drunken bender where he meets the carnival guy, and he's basically like, hey, carnival guy, circus guy, my friend Ray, my friends can turn into fire, and my friend Ray can turn teeny weeny. And he's like, teeny weeny. He's like, yeah. He's like, I think that's the booze talking guy. You should not listen to this guy. He's too busy drinking on the booze to know what he's talking about. Oh yeah. But then Nate and Ray get captured. Jax and Ray get captured by the circus guy, and he's like, I guess the circus won't be closing after all. So yeah, so while they're there, Sarah bumps into Gary and my boy Gary Green, and she's like, Gary, what are you doing here? And he's like, I was just doing some, incontinence work for Ava. And she's like, yeah, but Ava's going to come. So he decides to come. So she points a gun to his head and says, hey, say all this stuff about how him being there has caused the Legends to be distracted from them saving the mission, and it's turned from level 1 to a level 6 to level 8. And he's like, Gary, it's okay. And then Ava knows there's something wrong, so she goes on the Wave Rider, and she's like, hey, you guys go save Nate and Jackson Ray. I'll handle our guest. So yeah, I'll handle our guest. So yeah, so she's like, hey, Sterlings, your team is under arrest. And she's like, you should know one thing about our Legends. We didn't go easy. And she's like, one thing about us legends, we don't go down easily. And she's like, if you turn yourself in now, if you turn yourself in now, maybe I could get you back your job at Simpson stuff. And she's like, yeah, that's not happening. And get into fight time. Bow staff versus two bow staffs. So basically, get into a fight. Yeah. So meanwhile, the circus guy is like, got a fire, and the Incredible Shrinking Man, he's like, hey guy, we're useless to you. Jack doesn't have Stein, and Ray doesn't have his suit. So he's like, hey, he's like, yeah. So he's like, so basically, Jack and Nate and Mike get captured, and he's like, so he's like, hey Maya, and he's like, why'd you leave me? And he's because, you know, she explains to Nate is she left him because she went to see Mari fight in Detroit. But then Rip told her that if she didn't return in 1942, it would be snap away Mari. Even though I'm kind of confused about that. Mari, I'm guessing Mari was was Mari alive? Is the only reason Mari was alive is because Amaya was in 1942, and if she stayed in 2017 when the show takes place, rather than the actual time, it's 2022, that Mari would go away. So she's like, it was her destiny. So he's like, hey Nate, you may not want to turn on the Man of Steel, but will you do it for her? But that's when Amaya goes all bear. The spirit of the bear possesses her, and now she wants to kill the carnival guy. But Nate's able to calm her down by saying, hey Amaya, you're not some bear, you're Amaya Jiwei. Jiwei, I like Jiwei better. Jiwei, you're part of the Justice Society of America. You hold the air tornado. You have the power of animals. You're not a killer. Come back to me, Maya, and that just makes her come back to him. So as they're capturing Gary, so back to the Sarah and Ava fight. Sarah and Ava, the cat go. So she's like, hey, now Rip will believe that your team could never defeat ... And she's like, what? And she's like, Rip will be taking back your ship, Miss Lance. So she's like, hey, we defeated the anachronism. And he's like, now Stein doesn't believe it, and Stein doesn't believe. Now Stein doesn't believe. Now Stein believes in the circus. And she's like, hey, I didn't say that. I said I didn't believe you guys could take down an anachronism. And then Gideon's like, that's right, Miss Sharp, we did. And then Gideon's like, then Sarah's like, even our AI doesn't like you. Kind of funny. So then they go and decide. So she's like, hey, what was. So she was like, So she's like, what was up with that? And she's like, I guess that your sister. She looks at a picture of Sarah, Oliver, and Laurel, and then she's like, hey, what was that up with there? And she's like, she was like, Red Bull finally believed that you and your team couldn't stop, and then you stopped yourself. What are we fighting? And she's like, that information is need to know. We know it, and you shouldn't. So, yeah. So then she's like, so, yeah. Yeah. So she's like, hey, there is someone out there. There's a time bureau getting to be. And then they start laughing, saying, yeah, there's, what's more powerful than a demigod and a speedster? Yeah, even Maya says about how she came back to the team because back in Zambezi, she killed some Belgian boys, and even after they ran screaming, she tore them apart. And she's like, she wants to prove that that's her, not the tornado. So then off in some random place, we see this figure in a black cloak using a chant to revive someone named Kuwasa. Who's Kuwasa? Yeah, who is Kuwasa? I don't even know who Kuwasa is. She could be a main character from the Vixen animated show that I chose to skip instead of review, because I'm reviewing the live action shows, not the animated ones. Oh. Who is Kuwasa? Because Kuwasa's like, who is this person? And she's like, she's a server of Mallet. The person is a server of Malice or Malice. And they need to get some work to do. So, that was Legend of Tomorrow. Season 3, I want to say Season 2. Season 3, Episode 2, Freak Show. I thought it was a pretty good episode. It was really cool seeing Amaya come back. We always wonder what happened to Amaya. She basically saw Mari and basically just decided to leave the team. But anyway, that's it for this video. And I'll see you next time for more Legends of Tomorrow. Bang! Bang! Well, well.